Hi everyone, it's Teresa from Slow Path Wellness. This is Mindful Monday, and I wanted to give you a mindfulness session today that would help for when you have dealt with some emotional reactivity. And so, when something goes wrong and you kind of lose your grip a little bit, what do you do first when that happens? And then what can you do to keep it from happening again? So the first thing, I've had a little experience with this today because I've had some technical difficulties and things have kind of gotten cranky about that I was cranky about. The first thing to do is, as soon as you realize that kind of the stagecoach is on the run sort of thing, and you realize you're kind of losing your grip about something, is to try to stop immediately. Stop whatever you're doing, whether that's saying bad words or just feeling amped up or feeling like everything's kind of going cranky. Just kind of give yourself a pause and think, okay, I'm safe right now. At this moment, I'm okay. Now, if for some reason that is literally not true, which is very rare for most people, but if you're in a truly dangerous situation, of course, get yourself out of that first. But if you're not, and you feel like you just feel very unsafe, the first thing to do is to go, okay, stop. I'm okay at this moment, and at this moment, and at this moment. And just remind yourself that you're okay. That no matter what's going wrong, no matter what consequences you see in the future, no matter what fears or hurt or whatever the feelings are that come up from whatever it is that sets you off, at this moment, I'm okay. And then take a few deep breaths, at least 3, but 10 can be better depending on how bad things are going. So just take your breaths in. And for this, it usually is better to breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth and put a little bit of a sigh into it. Now, if you do a really strong sigh, sometimes for people who really have a lot of very sensitive nervous systems, it can almost set you over into you're feeling unsettled or feeling like your oxygen and carbon dioxide are mixed up. So don't go, a really bad, big, huge sigh, but just kind of a calming sort of sigh. So do 3 breaths like that. And as you do, notice what happens in your body. Like I notice in my body, because I'm still a little ramped up about the technical difficulties I was having. There's still a little tension here. Kind of feel like I might be sort of on the verge of sort of a little bit of a palpitating kind of feeling. But my shoulders feel like they're a little more calm. And I feel a little more grounded. I don't feel like I'm kind of, my head's kind of leading everything. I feel like I'm sort of grounded and I feel calmer. So once you get to that point, then just allow yourself, say, okay, it's okay that I got upset, that I'm learning how to fix it, and in the meantime, I got upset. And depend on how you feel. Sometimes if you get really, really upset, recovery is all you need to do at this point. It's just to go, okay, I'm going to continue focusing on having my good breaths. If I can find a way to have a couple moments to myself or to end the situation that I was getting out of control with for a few minutes. So like sometimes if I'm upset at someone and I realize it's more about what's going on inside of me than what's going on with them, I'll say, excuse me, I need to go for just a moment and go to the bathroom or go to another room and do this same kind of calming thing. So if it's possible to sort of give yourself some space to do that, and then when you have time, think about what happened. Think about, why did I feel like this? So for me, with my technical difficulties, I felt frustrated because I was doing everything I knew how to do to fix the problem, and it wasn't getting fixed. And I was out of options, so I felt overwhelmed. And when you feel overwhelmed, depending on what's going on in the back of your head, you'll have whatever cranky, difficult, demeaning message maybe in there come out. And in my case, it was something along the lines of, I'm just not good enough to figure this out. And so once that happens, then all of the other little emotional triggery things kick in too, and that causes trouble. In Chinese medicine, we talk about that as being things dealing with the water element, which deals with kidney and bladder and fear, and the wood element dealing with anger, creativity, and liver and gallbladder function, and also often with the earth element dealing with spleen, stomach, and sense of self. And those three especially, you can probably make a case for any of the 5 elements being involved here, but those 3, especially in me, kind of get tangled up and kind of attack each other a little bit. And so my first thing was to remind myself that first, everyone has technical difficulties. I've been around enough people that are in the technical field and realize that most of the time, most of their work is basically getting into technical difficulties and then slowly working their way back out again and then jumping back in again. So in my case, I had a normal level of technical difficulty for someone who doesn't use technology every single day all the time in the way that I was using it this time, and that I actually figured it out pretty fast and did a good job. So I was able to have some self-compassion, and that's what I recommend to you as well. When you feel like you've had an overwhelm, stop, take some good breaths to relax and calm yourself. Remind yourself that you're okay, and then try to figure out what might have been underneath that. Maybe not at that moment, later on, but remind yourself to either journal or talk it through with a therapist or a close friend or a coach, or just sort of sit and meditate on it and see what comes up, see what kind of thing comes up for you. And then in order to try to prevent that in the future, remind yourself, what was the first sign you had that you were getting kind of out of control? So the first sign, usually the first one you notice, is the one that's a little bit over the top, like, the urge to throw a computer across a room or slamming a door or something like that. But if you back from there, if you go, okay, when I was at that point, it was already way, too far gone. What happened before that? And if you kind of go before and before and before, in my case, I would have noticed that my shoulders were getting kind of tense, that I was kind of starting to hunch over my piece of equipment and lean in more, that I was starting to get this kind of racing, why isn't this working kind of feeling coming over and over. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working kind of feeling coming over me. And so my task will be to try to notice when that happens, and at that point say, okay, I need a 5-minute break. So for you, it may be something else. You may start feeling your throat feeling constricted, or you may start noticing your hands kind of clasp up, or you may just kind of start noticing that the people around you seem to be doing more wrong than they usually do. And when you first chance you notice that, or resentment, that's one thing counselors, neurobiologists, therapists, all kinds of people tell you, when you start noticing resentment, when you start thinking, I'm doing this for this person and they don't even appreciate it, that's a time to step back, because something has happened inside of you where either you're allowing a boundary to be violated, or you're giving more than you have, or something from the past is kicking in on you. So in any of those times, you just give yourself that stop, I'm okay, take a few breaths, and then decide whether it needs to go beyond that. So there's the when you're in the middle of an emotional event, how to kind of help that. And we have someone outside that has a very nice horn they're trying to share with us. So stop, calming breaths, I'm okay, and then when you have time, going back and looking to see where that may have come from. And then for the future, there is as we talked about already, the looking at where the first sign that things were kind of going off track. And then just regular mindfulness with self-compassion will help you to get out of a situation like that more quickly. So for me today, when I did the technological semi-meltdown, very quickly I was able to go from, why isn't this working? I can't get anything right, to going, okay, stop, breathe, and then to realize I actually did really, really well at that. I should congratulate myself on sticking with it and then figuring it out and solving the problem and being able to think and be creative enough to figure that out. And if I hadn't been able to figure it out, to know that I could set it aside and I could ask questions and I could learn how to do it and I could figure it out eventually. So the self-compassion part kicked in much more quickly than it used to. And part of that's because I spend a lot of time in self-compassion, working very hard to develop that. So one way you can do that, a quick little exercise, you can put one hand on your chest, and you can't see me. Let's see if I back up if you can tell. And one hand down here on your belly button or just below it. And just sit there with that as if you're kind of giving yourself a hug. And just take some more of those nice breaths. And go back to telling yourself, I'm okay. I'm safe. I have what I need to be able to handle this situation, and I can take care of myself. And if you do that every single day for even just a couple minutes, especially if you do it a few times a day, eventually, over time, your nervous system will hear that. And the things that you tell your nervous system, it actually listens to very, very well. And so then when you start getting into situations where normally you might overreact or normally you might kind of lose control of what's going on for a little bit, your nervous system will go, oh wait, I have something about that. I have some information I can use to help me. And you will find that without you really having to work at it very hard, it'll come into your mind on its own. Oh yeah, I'm okay. I can figure this out. I can handle this. I can take care of myself. So those are the sort of acute tier, what to do when things are going wrong, and what to do when things haven't gone wrong yet and you want to prevent it from happening. So both of them involve taking care of yourself, being calm, having calming breaths, and then just treating yourself like you're a friend of yourself. Instead of demeaning yourself or criticizing yourself, giving yourself the same kind of encouragement that you would give someone that you really love when they're having a hard time, or when you want to help them be able to deal with a hard time, or you want them to know that they can handle a hard time. And just give those same gifts to yourself. And that will, one, help you a great deal because you'll feel a great deal better. And two, it'll help you be able to do that more for other people as well. So it's not in any way, shape, or form selfish. It actually is a very giving thing to do, because when you do it for yourself, then you have the tools ready to also give it to someone else. So that's Mindful Monday for today. Have a lovely, lovely day, and I look forward to seeing you next week.